It felt a little bit like I should be going, so, last 4 years then, hey? Here we are.
1 year on from the end of the Brexit transition period, and the full effects of leaving the EU are becoming more apparent by the day.
Every single sector is struggling to recruit.
The UK is still forging its path outside the EU, but doubts continue to fester over whether our nation is on the right track.
Very little attention was paid to what the deal actually contained. Day after day, we are doing things that are against either our strategic or economic interests.
And whether a Prime Minister born out of the Brexit crisis,
he was very much a Remainer,
is the right man to define the UK's new chapter on the international stage.
He knew very well that that's what would happen, and yet he did it anyway.
In this Brexit special, Sarah Olney talks to the political agenda about Brexit, Boris, and why moving forward isn't as simple as it seems.
I am an optimist, and I do think, this is a great country. We will renew ourselves. I just think we've made it much harder for ourselves than it needed to be. I don't think that there was ever any sort of serious attempt to actually construct a deal that would be in Britain's interests. It was all about utilising Brexit as a political issue to get Boris Johnson elected. That's all it ever was, and so everything else was kind of subsidiary to that. And we just ended up with whatever deal that him and Lord Frost were able to cobble together. So, I mean, you could call that incompetence if you like. There was only a few MPs because most people were exercising a proxy vote, and the ones that were queuing in a socially distanced way in members' lobby, queuing up to cast that vote. And I happened to find myself in the queue behind Theresa May, of all people, and it just felt really surreal. And we ended up having just a little chat. I think I complimented her on the speech she'd made earlier, and I can't remember, I might have said something about her shoes or something like that. It was a very just nice little chat. And then we went our separate ways, obviously, to go into the different lobbies that we were going to vote in. But it just felt very surreal after all that time, after all of that campaigning for the second vote, to be casting it in such strange circumstances.
Can you remember what her mood was like? She was smiling, frowning. I remember her speech was pretty scathing.
Yeah.
It was one of the first things I actually clipped for the website.
Yes. I mean, she was. I think it's probably the only time we've had an actual conversation, and she was quite willing to chat. We didn't talk about, the actual content of the bill, or it felt a little bit like I should be going, so, last 4 years then, hey, here we are. But no, it was quite friendly. I think one thing you'd say about Theresa May is that she's very responsible and she's very loyal. And it's like, we're here now and this is what I have to do. This is not perhaps where I wanted to be or what I wanted to be doing, but this is what now has to happen. So I sensed that with her. More than anything else, the impact that is being felt in everybody's life is labour shortage, and it seems to be cutting across every sector. Literally everyone I've spoken to in the last few months who's trying to recruit. It's not just the care sector, it's not just HGV drivers, those are the kind of the headline ones, but every single sector is struggling to recruit. Obviously that's impacting employers most of all, but eventually it impacts all of us. People can't get GP appointments because we can't recruit enough staff. People, services are not available because there's just simply not enough people to deliver them. I think the most damaging thing that we've done with Northern Ireland is to almost make a statement to the world that we just don't care. We knew very well, Boris knew very well, that putting a national border down the Irish Sea, or a customs border down the Irish Sea, would inflame tensions that were there for decades. And it's a century, I think, since the partition this year, that had only just been kind of not settled, but sort of accommodated only in the last 20 years. He knew very well that that's what would happen, and yet he did it anyway. And it is so characteristic of this very careless approach that the government have, that their own interests are the only thing that matters. And I think that is so damaging, not just to the United Kingdom, to the people of Northern Ireland, but our international reputation. And I think that will be the most damaging legacy of what the government has done. I think one of my biggest concerns right now, post-Brexit, is that the British government doesn't appear to have a real understanding of where Britain's strategic interests lie. And I think that is so obvious to all of our international partners. And I think that puts us in quite a dangerous position. Day after day, we are doing things that are against either our strategic or economic interests. And it's abundantly clear to everybody else that we're only doing that because it's in the narrow interests of the Conservative Party, or the even narrower interests of Mr. Johnson himself. And that we don't have a clear sense of, now we've left the EU, what is it that we want to do now? What do our diplomatic relations look like? Which relationships are we going to prioritise? Where is our increase in trade going to come from? How are we going to approach those trading relationships? It's so clear that we've not given any thought at all to any of those things. We don't have a plan, and we don't have a clear understanding of where our interests lie, and no seeming will to take a step to act in those interests. I'm really intrigued by that Dominic Cummings quote, where he was saying that it was only in October 2020 that Boris Johnson had a real understanding of what leaving the customs union meant. Because on the one hand, of course, that's totally unbelievable, but actually it really is believable. And it certainly chimes with my own opinion that very little attention was paid to what the deal actually contained. As far as Boris was concerned, the only important thing was that there was a deal, that he could say to people, I've got you a deal, there it is. And very little attention actually paid to the contents of it has always been my assumption. And I think Dominic Cummings has just kind of confirmed that. The deal was just a political instrument.
If he felt that he could become Prime Minister by supporting Remain, do you think that's something he would have done? Or was he,
Absolutely no doubt. And I mean, that goes right back to those 2 Telegraph articles that he wrote, one supporting Leave and one supporting Remain. When he was Mayor of London, he was very much a Remainer. Not that we talked in those terms at the time, but he was, very pro-European Union as Mayor of London. So there's absolutely no doubt. And I don't think even his best friends would deny that he just jumped on whichever train was most likely to lead him to being Prime Minister.
Is that okay? That, I mean, people, normal people that aren't engrossed in the world of the politics that we both are, would find that probably pretty disgusting.
Well, I mean, that's the choice. It's not just the choice that Boris has made. That's the choice the Conservative Party made. When they had their leadership election in 2019, they had a range of people they could choose from, but they chose Boris because they knew he could win, and they were perfectly comfortable for him to exploit the political divisions created by Brexit to get them a majority in Parliament. They knew that's what they were choosing, and that's what Boris delivered for them. So it is, Boris is clearly, but the thing is, Boris has always been Boris. We always knew exactly what he was like. The Conservative Party knew what he was like, and they chose him, and that's the decision that they made. There's no point lamenting the fact that we were unable to keep Britain in the European Union when you've got to deal with the situation as it confronts you now. I still feel really, really frustrated on behalf of my constituents about what I see to be, there's an economic downturn. Obviously, you need to unpick the bits that are caused by Brexit from the bits that are caused by the pandemic, but there's no doubt they've both got a role to play. I see fewer opportunities for young people. As I said earlier, I think we are going to have a slowing down of our economy. I think there'll be fewer goods and services available for people to buy, fewer job opportunities. And I feel really, really frustrated about that. And as I say, I don't see any evidence that the government are serious about putting in place something coherent and positive that will replace what we've lost. But having said that, I am an optimist, and I do think, this is a great country. We will renew ourselves. I just think we've made it much harder for ourselves than it needed to be, and I feel very frustrated by that.